Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter. I am your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer for Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Good Sunday to you. Excuse me, good Monday to you. I hope that you enjoyed your Sunday and enjoyed your weekend and had a time of rest and relaxation, especially as we're approaching the holiday in a couple of weeks, or probably really just about a week and a half. But I hope it was a great weekend for you and whatever you did. Maybe this is the start of your weekend, and I hope you feel refreshed in this week. But a lot going on. And I feel it's super necessary today. And the reason I feel it is because over the last few days, I've done several national interviews where I've been a guest. And my job as a reporter is to bring you factual information on a plate, kind of like a waiter or a waitress. And then what you do with that is up to you. I remember one time I went on a date and I go on this date and I say to the lady, "Would you like me to order for you?" She said, "Sure, that would be great." And I order a beautiful prime rib, which is what I got. And I was very, very young. This was probably my first or second date, not with her, but overall in my entire life. And I was really, really young. And so we get all done and I'm done eating and she'd eaten all of her vegetables and her salad and potato and everything else. And I looked down and I said, "You didn't touch your prime rib. Is there something wrong with it?" She said, "Yeah, I can't eat beef." She goes, "I'm not a vegetarian, but I can't eat beef." And now the waiter, is there something wrong? Did we do something wrong? No, it's perfectly well. Mine was fantastic. She can't eat beef and I didn't ask. Dumb move on my part. Stupid move. This is my point. The cook did his job. The waiter did his job. How she and I then disseminated with the steak was our decision. I don't worry about um, if people like the information I bring. I don't even worry about how people delineate the information that I give. It's just my job to give the information. And I endeavor to do that with as high quality of character and integrity as I can. And so after these last couple of interviews that I've done, I feel like it's important to me that I have failed in presenting things very basically. And I want to go back and I want to break down Aidan O'Connell for you. We're going to really spend the entire podcast today on Aidan O'Connell. You may not like him as a quarterback. You may like him as a quarterback. You may be like me and say, yeah, there's a lot to like, but I'm not convinced he's a QB1 yet. Might be, but I'm not convinced of that. So wherever you stand on the spectrum, I do think today will behoove you and be beneficial for you in understanding what the thought process is of the Raiders. Now, let's go back and look at Aidan O'Connell. He was not highly recruited until the very last minute. He bet on himself. He waited, and then picked up a Purdue commitment. There are various different reports, but I was told by someone from the University of Purdue, and I covered, or Purdue University, I covered the Big Ten for a long time. So I have very good connections there. I was told by someone there that when he got there, he was the seventh string quarterback. There was a walk-on kid that one of the coaches very much liked. Others liked Aidan in front of him. But in this particular man's mind, he was the seventh. Now, you'll hear reports he was the sixth. It doesn't matter. It's half a dozen to one, six to the other. It's semantics. The point is, he was low on the poll, but he believed in himself. Competed. Finally gets the opportunity, doesn't look back. Now, the year before he actually left Purdue, there was a large contingent of NFL people that thought he was a first round draft pick. He had performed admirably, that what technically would have been called a junior year. Junior meaning second to last. Oh, yeah, second to last. And he decides, he's persuaded, hey, come back. Purdue's never been in a Big Ten championship game in football. This team has a chance to be special. Please come back and give Purdue that chance. Now, he loves the University of Purdue. It's his school. I'm a Spartan, so at least he's not a Wolverine. But anyways, he decides to stay. Over that period, his brother passes away. He loses some key teammates for various reasons. And he goes into his senior campaign and does not have anywhere near the talent that he had around him for the year before. Doesn't have anywhere near the talent. And people warned him of this, saying, hey, you're a first-round draft pick. You probably need to go now. No, he's a winner. He wants to compete. So he goes on, and literally, with a team nowhere near as good as the year before, you could make an argument that the team the year before was considerably better than the team his last year at Purdue. Somehow gets them to the Big Ten championship game where they get steamrolled by Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines. And quite frankly, anybody that year would have been steamrolled by Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines in the Big Ten. So he comes out and people look at his diminished numbers, look at things about him, and he's now a mid-round pick. No problem there. He doesn't mind competing. And I know for a fact one of the teams that really liked him the year before was the Patriots. So it's natural that Dave Ziegler already had his eye on him and liked him. Dave was already extremely familiar with him. So he comes to the Raiders. Now, the Raider belief was, when I say the Raider, meaning McDaniel's, belief was, we're going to stow him on the back. We're going to let Brian teach him. Brian's going to be a teacher on the staff. They've got Jimmy, who McDaniels thought was the knight in shining armor. That was not the way Dave Ziegler felt, and I've reported at that. And they were ready to go forward. Now, Jimmy was injured still, so early OTAs and all that kind of stuff. A lot of reps for Brian Hoyer, and Aidan certainly got his fair share, not pretending like he got none, but it was in a McDaniel system. Now, while this is going on, this is year 2, the team is struggling to implement some of Josh McDaniel's system, either because they don't necessarily have the personnel to do it, or people aren't getting it because it's so complex. Josh is not going to move or budge. He's convinced once Jimmy gets here, we'll be fine. If Jimmy's not here, we're going to ride with Brian. Brian knows my system as good as anybody else. That was the thinking process, and I know that factually that's not Hondo opinion. We're going to let Aidan come along. So then Jimmy's back, and Aidan is relegated to very little very little reps. Now they get into the preseason games, and Josh takes all of his complex system and all the looks, doesn't use it in the preseason, which I don't blame him. I wouldn't either. And so Aidan shines. He looks super good. Fans are excited. Boy, this could be a rookie, real important rookie. And they're right. He benefited from Josh McDaniels taking out the things that didn't work and the new stuff and the complexity. And he benefited from Josh McDaniels just bringing the playbook down to pitch, catch, handoff, run. Now, there were times he went against teams once, but there were times that he didn't. And in both cases, he looked good. So there's tons of excitement. They get into the season. As expected, Jimmy's injured very, very quickly. Going into that week, headed down to LA to take on the Bolts. Brian is going to be the starter. Now, there are some people that refute that, but I am telling you 100% factually, Brian was going to be the starter. Can't get into how I know it, but I'm telling you factually. I learned that from inside the building, from two different sources. One who originally told it, one who confirmed it. You may remember I fly down to LA, and I told people that week. Yeah, Brian's the starter. Yep, Brian's the starter. Brian is the starter. People were sending me stuff. How can you say that? Look how good Aidan looked. I agree. I even said, if it were my decision, it would be Aidan O'Connell. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm very close friends with Brian Hoyer, love him dearly and his family. But I still would have put Aidan out there. You knew that Brian was not going to be in the league a long time. Aidan, you hoped was. You got to get those reps for your young guy. You know, if you know that Brian's not the long-term answer and you bring him in to be essentially a coach and a trusted backup, that's fine. But you got to go with Aidan, in my opinion. And I said all of this. But I knew that Brian was a guy. And so I readily admit to you, I told people it's going to be Brian. And both of my sources should know. Definitely should know. So I get on the plane to go to LA for the Bolts game and it's the regular season game. And when I land, I've got to literally my plane tires hit the ground. You put your phone on, and I got a text. And it's change of plans, a lot of pressure. Josh probably, is, going with Aidan. I immediately texted. Just heard from one of my sources, there's been a change. Now, I was told later that the reason that Josh made the switch late was because he felt the pressure of the fan base. Now, you need to remember that I shared with you that people said that almost the moment Josh got hired, it was like he was afraid that he was going to get fired. Now, I was told there was not going to be a simplification of the playbook, which is what the entire team needed, not just Aidan. Oh, no, they wanted to show their system. I was also told that while Josh did believe in Aidan, was going to be a good opportunity to tell people, hey, back off all the rookie crap. See, we should have played Brian, and we're going to be fine. We're a playoff team. Now, we can look back, all of us, and laugh at that. But that was his thinking process, I'm told by people directly with knowledge in the building who were aware of everything. So they get down there. Aidan struggled. Khalil Mack owned him. There was terrible scheming. Khalil Mack spent more time on Aidan O'Connell, I think, than his jersey. There was no, let's put extra protection over there, nothing. And a statement wanted to be made, hey, I'm smarter than the fans. Essentially, that's what I believe the statement was, in my opinion. And even though you could make an argument he outplayed Justin Herbert, bunch of interceptions and sacks, but when you understand it in totality, it was a disaster that sat squarely on the head coach's shoulders and still had a chance to win the game at the end of the game. Ridiculous. Horrible coaching there. But they were thinking long-term, not short-term, in their opinion. So basically, then he's done. The Raiders go up to Chicago to play Chicago, and they go with Brian Hoyer. And even though Brian had not looked good that year, they did it anyways. A lot of people thought they should have went with Aidan, myself included. They go to Detroit. Y'all know what happened there. Josh gets canned. The deadline for trades are over. Now, all of a sudden, in comes Antonio Pierce, a different kind of leader who had believed in Aidan O'Connell since he got there, who felt like, man, nobody's trying to help this kid. He believed the best quarterback in the building between Hoyer, Garoppolo, and Aidan was Aidan. And may I add, I agree. And so he understands we got to change the offense, but you can't holistically change it. So they at least go to a zone, not a wide zone, which they're running now. It's a wide zone is the zone expanded, but they run, hey, and they bring in a first-time offensive coordinator, Bo Hardigree. They lose essentially the offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, and his most important assistant. They get fired. So they're down 2 offensive coaches trying to change a system, and now with a first-time offensive coordinator. And I'm not putting this on Bo Hardigree. I think he made chicken salad out of chicken poop. He did the best that he could. If anyone looks at last year and thinks poorly of Bo Hardigree, then you don't understand how bad the situation was. But the Raiders didn't need a guy coming in here learning. There's too much around, and they were not rebuilding. If they were rebuilding, I believe Hardigree would have kept the job, but they're not. They needed somebody with experience, and it was the right call. 100% support that call. So they do the best that they can do. And here is Aidan, rookie year, half the season, very little done to help him. Second half of the season, some, but it was very limited what could be done. And oh, by the way, now 2 offensive coordinators in less than a year. It is being hammered into Aidan by Antonio Pierce. Hey, buddy, we believe in you. We understand you don't have a full playbook. We understand that you're a rookie. You're learning some new stuff. We understand you got a rookie OC. We get all that. Don't cost us the game. Now, where Josh McDaniel's system, they were a little bit aggressive, taking the ball, making some risks. Hey, we're not going to send extra people over to help with Khalil Mack, adjust, whatever. Now, the young quarterback who came from Purdue learns a whole new system with Josh McDaniels. Now that's thrown out, and a whole new system begins to be implemented on very limited practice. Now the season's over. They go back, they look at the film, they watch the film, they analyze the film. On top of the film, they know what their eyes showed them in practices and leadership with Aidan O'Connell. Where Josh McDaniels had hammered into him, stay in the pocket, don't move, don't move, don't move. We're a pocket presence team. Then when they move to the Bo Hardigree, hey, you can move a little bit. Here's a guy that's been told us, I'll give you a great one. I have a friend who, and like my wife and I, they adopted a child. Unlike my wife and I, their child was a little bit older and came from a terribly abusive situation. And he shared with me, and it just makes me almost want to cry, that for the first and longest time when he would try to hug his son would, and one day he mentions to somebody, I don't understand, he hates me. And they're like, he doesn't hate you. His previous parents, anytime they touched him, it was abuse. And they said, why don't you do this? Reiterate that I love you. Reiterate I'll never hurt you. But don't try the hugging. You let him know, hey, I love you. And he's so young. He'll come to you when he's ready to hug, when you've earned his trust. I'll never forget the day my buddy called me. And he was so excited. I said, what are you so excited about? He goes, Hondo. He hugged me. He just kind of came over to me and put his arm around me. Oh, I was so happy. We both just cried on the phone. It was such a great moment for him as a dad and his wife, but it was a great moment for the child, had learned that he could trust again. Now, I'm not calling Aidan O'Connell a child, but he'd had hammered into him since he got to the NFL. Don't move, stay in the pockets. Don't move, don't. Then he has Hardigree, a new situation. So finally, AP just sits down and said, listen, buddy, we're not changing you out. You're our guy. We're riding the rest of the year with you. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Just don't lose us a game. Please don't take risks. You just do what I ask you to do under really hard circumstances. And with our defense, we're going to be okay. Last 5 games, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. He earned the trust of his teammates and earned the trust of his coach. Now he comes into year 2. 3 offensive coordinators. And he has not played a game yet in year 2. So literally in 1 year, 3 offensive coordinators. They know what they have seen in Aidan. Very smart. They told him in the offseason, 2 things that you have to work on. You were a rookie last year, throwing it in the middle. We get that. But if you're going to be an NFL quarterback, you have to be vocal. Number 1. Number 2, you don't have to be Patrick Mahomes, but you have to be mobile. You can't stand there with your feet nailed to the ground in the pocket. He was fine with that because he had that kind of mobility at Purdue. So what did he do? He worked on it all offseason. He was in the building every day. Well, not every, but pretty much every day. Considered one of the everyday guys. He showed his mobility. His accuracy was very, very good. And he was much more vocal. Much more vocal. Now when Max Crosby calls him out, he calls him back. Not disrespectful, not arrogant, none of that. But he said, hey, I'm going to speak up for my offense. Now, you have a new system, new blocking schemes, and because of NFL rules now, I mean, training camp, you don't get as many practices, OTAs, and minicamp. You don't even have as many preseason games. That's why I've said a couple times, I think it may take 2 or 3 games for them to get all in sync. But now, since we've seen these changes in the NFL, that's not uncommon unless you have an offense where everybody's back and all the schemes the same. That's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. But I believe when you look at all of that in focus, you see now why the Raiders say, okay, we like what we got here. Now, you may not, and that doesn't mean you're bad or even dumb. I'm not saying that. You're entitled to any opinion you want. But I think when you don't holistically look at all of the circumstances, don't like him, he sucks. Okay. Is it his fault that they had a 2-touchdown lead in Kansas City and AP said, let's just run the clock? And they ran the ball for almost the entirety of the second half. Is that his fault? Because AP was throwing early. They were doing all right. AP's like, no, we're not worried about Aidan. We're worried about Patrick Mahomes. Run the football. Eat the clock. Let's keep Mahomes off the field. I don't blame AP. I think that's brilliant. It's exactly what I would have done. Even if Patrick Mahomes had been my quarterback, why take the risk? You know the old adage. Barry Switzer said it, the old Oklahoma coach. Won a Super Bowl with Troy Aikman, and really Troy Aikman won that Super Bowl. But you know what the old Barry Switzer used to say? 3 things happen when you throw the football, and 2 of them ain't good. Let's just run the clock was what AP's. Is that his fault? Of course not. And AP knows that. So when people are critical, AP understands, I understand the whole circumstance. If you would have saw my friend in public with his child before he earned his child's trust, you would probably thought, boy, what's wrong with that parent? That kid is standoffish to him. I wonder if he's abusing him. But you'd have had poor information because you didn't know the child's back. Same principle. AP understood, I don't care about the noise. I don't care about what the fans say. Not that he disrespects the fans, but he knew what was going on internally. The point is, everything they've asked AP to do, he's done. They trust him. I mean, they've asked Aidan to do. We have no idea. I've heard some people say, oh, he's the next Stabler. I don't know how you can say that. I have not seen that. I have seen lots of reasons to think he can be a QB1 in the NFL, but I've not seen anything definitive. I've not seen anything, though, that has me agree with the other people. He's trash. I don't think he's trash at all. I do believe, if I had to guess, I am not predicting, I think he's going to be really good. That's Hondo's opinion based upon what people who get paid to lead this team feel. And one of the things my father told me years ago, when you are making an opinion is a guess, look at the people who have the most to gain and to lose and judge their point of view the closest. Tom Telesco and AP think he's worth the shot to look at. I'm going to go with them. Just like when Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels signed Jimmy Garoppolo. You can go back and see this. I made this comment. I think this is a bad move. But they've earned the right because they're putting their futures on the line behind Jimmy. And I said, if it works, they get all the praise. If it fails, they get all the blame. And many people are like, Hondo, why did you turn on Josh? I didn't turn on Josh. I just reported the truth. Okay. They've not declared Aidan O'Connell, Ken Stabler, but they've declared it. We want to see what this young man can do. We think there may be something there. And if not, this team is significantly better next year, poised to go get the quarterback of immediacy. A lot of good things going on here. So again, that's the true story of Aidan O'Connell. You are welcome to any opinion you want. I'm not trying to change, alter, or even promote an opinion. I'm just saying that's where I come from. I think you got a lot of reasons to be very optimistic with the kid. I don't think you've seen enough to say he's not a QB1. I think you've seen a lot of reasons to think he might be. But it's not, no one is crowning him Ken Stabler that I have known of. But it's just, hey, we think this kid could be special. That's where it stands with him. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Hope you have a great week. I love Mondays. Years ago, my dad taught us boys, he would say, listen, most people hate Mondays. You need to learn to love it because the people you compete against are coming into the office hungover, tired from a weekend, mad, don't want to be there. Oh, the weekend was too short. You go in excited because while your competition isn't working as hard, you can pounce. I love Mondays, man. Love it. I hope you got yourself a case of the Mondays. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I hope you got it in a positive sense. It's a Monday. You're alive. You're breathing. You got a lot of things to be excited about. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope you appreciate this, and I hope it puts it a little bit more into perspective. 3 offensive coordinators and hasn't even started his second season. That's a lot to expect of a young man. I appreciate you. Have a great day. God bless you all. We'll see you tomorrow.